Pumba is a good question. You have to make 100% sure that you can do Pumba because that is really a good question and it tests your knowledge about creditors controls account, individual creditors account and reconciliations. You are provided with the following information relating to the trade creditors of Pumba Traders. The owner is Linda and the date of this reconciliations are the 31st of March 2013. On 1 March 2013, Pumba Traders had a balance of 16,185 in the creditors control account. On 31 March 2013, the balance of the creditors control account was 2658. Guys, why would I like to start at the 1st of March if I already have the 31st of March balance? So obviously, this is now the final thing. They give me the creditors list, they give me reconciliation differences. They said that they haven't reconciled this tiger, and then they ask you something to do. So what is important is that I'm going to start with a balance, the most updated balance, which is this balance, 2658, and that will be recorded in our creditors control account. So creditors control account opening balance 2658. Good, they give us our creditors list as at 31 March 2013. And you can see clearly that our creditors list has a balance of 25,098, which is not exactly the same as the creditors control account balance of 2658. They said after reconciling the statements of the creditors with the exception of Tiger suppliers, the following omissions and errors still appeared in the books of Pumba Traders. So they've already done the ticking exercise. They've already established what caused the difference between the creditors control account and the creditors list. The only one that they haven't actually completed was Tiger suppliers. Then the question goes down and they've told you what was the statement that they have received from Tiger suppliers, and they tell you it has not yet been reconciled. They also give you an extract of the creditors account in the creditors ledger of Tiger suppliers. So strictly speaking, that is what you're going to use in order to do the reconciliation. They also give you additional information, and this only relates to Tiger suppliers. They are required from you to prepare the creditors reconciliation with Tiger suppliers on 31 March 2013. So let's start with that part of the question, which is the second part of the information given in the question. Good. So what are we going to start off with? We are going to start off with the creditors ledger balance. So you're going to have a T account. The T account's name is Pumba Traders, and the opening balance in that T account is 3336. So Tiger creditors account opening balance 3336. Then we're going to perform a creditors reconciliation, and I'm going to start my reconciliation here as per the ledger balance, but obviously it must be the final ledger balance. I will not start with a 3336, so I cannot at this point of time put a figure next to the balance as per ledger. Good. Now we still have to perform the reconciliation. So every reconciliation starts exactly the same. We have to compare the debit side of the statement with the credit side of the account and vice versa. So let's do that. Our opening balance, you can see, is 7848, 7848. So there are no differences coming forward from the previous months. The closing balance though is 16,232 and 3336. That's a huge difference. So all the differences actually originated in the current month. So let's do the ticking exercise. That one and that one agrees. So we're happy with that. You agree. 7848, 7848. Then here, invoice P is 141 on the debit side, 8,400. Invoice 1451 at the credit side there, 8,400. So those two agree with each other, so I can tick them. Then I have here an invoice 1463 for 776, and here I also have an invoice 1463, but the amount differs. So I don't know who is right or who is wrong. So let's just make a note at this point of time, and we just tell ourselves on the statement that balance is 7766, not 7716. So which one of the two is now the actual balance? Then we have a payment there of 7848, and that same payment appears here on 7848. We have interest there of 66 Rand on the debit side, but there is no interest on this side for 66 Rand. So obviously that is a reconciling difference. We must find out where it came from. Then when we look at our creditors ledger account, we have now gone through all the old statement, but here are quite a few things that we haven't ticked. There was goods returned of 2760. That doesn't appear anywhere on the statement. And here we have goods returned again of 2220, which does not appear anywhere on that statement. We also have at the 31st of the month here a payment in his ledger for a ledger account of 7,800, which does not appear anywhere in his statement. Now they gave us some additional information relating to this account. They say payment or EFT 1647, that's 7848. Now remember that 7848 also appears on the statement. He says, in my books, it was done on the 3rd of March. But if you look at the date when they've actually recognized that, that was on the 30th of March. He said that the payment was made on the 3rd of March. The bookkeeper of Tiger Supplies only processed the amount on the 31st of March, as he thought that the date of the EFT was the 30th of March. From there, the difference in the dates, the 3rd opposed to the 30th. Now, it appeared on both the statement and on the account. So the 7848 actually reconciled for the month. But what happened is that the result was that interest was added to the account as it was not paid in time, or so the bookkeeper of Tiger Supplies have thought. So that is where that 66 Rand is coming from. He thought that he received payment late, and because he thought so, he has levied interest on that account. Tiger Supplies realized the mistake and agreed to reverse the interest charged on the 30th of March. So we are not going to post that interest in our books because it is not a valid entry. However, this will cause a difference until such a time as Tiger Supplies is going to rectify our account on their side. So for the current month, obviously you can see that that 66 Rand has increased the statement balance and nothing has happened here. Because the Tiger himself has to rectify this mistake, this will be an item that will appear on my reconciliation statement. Now, I am in this reconciliation reconciling the ledger balance to the statement balance. So the question that you have to ask yourself, if I want to make my ledger balance the same as what the statement balance is, what must I do with the 66 Rand? I'm not going to post it, it's wrong to post it, but it causes a difference. So what am I going to do to my ledger balance if I would have posted it? And guys, obviously interest increases a balance. I don't know what that balance is still, but whatever the balance is, it will be increased with 66 Rand because it's interest that was levied in our account, and interest increases a balance. If I did my reconciliation by starting at the statement balance, now what was the statement balance? The statement balance was 16,232. I have that figure. So if I started with the 16,232 and I wanted to make the statement the same as the ledger, what will I have to do with the statement balance in order to reflect the same entries as in the ledger account? Guys, then I must have taken out the 66 Rand, because if the statement takes out the 66 Rand, so I delete it, then basically what would have happened? Then it means I would have ended up there 16,166. So it would have been a lesser balance. So that is why I have to minus it from the statement balance if I've started my reconciliation there. So you can do it either way. The only thing is that you must argue correct. The one is, what would it have done to my ledger balance if it was posted? It would have increased my ledger balance. What would it have done to my statement balance if it was not posted on my statement balance? Well, that amount is going to reduce with the 66 Rand. That is why you must understand what reconciliations are all about and not bang around with debits and credits in reconciliations. Okay, that was number one. Number two, Tiger Supplies normally does not allow discount for timely payment. Nowhere here I've seen any discounts. After pointing out the fact that 2 payments were made during the month by Pumba traders, the owner of Tiger Supplies agreed to allow a discount of 720 Rand, which Pumba traders gladly accepted. Well, they have accepted that, but have they posted it? I don't see it here somewhere. No. And the same thing on the statement. They have approved this discount of 720 Rand, but have they posted it? No. Are we entitled on it? Yes. So should we post it? Of course. Otherwise, we will forget about that and we won't utilize that discount. So in the Tigers Creditors account, what are we going to do? We're going to post this discount against our inventory. So we are going to debit the account, reduce our balance, it's a discount, and we are going to credit inventory with a 720 Rand. So by the way, guys, in this question, they tell us here right at the bottom, ignore that. So that is why it's just a straightforward entry, and that entry is just between the inventory account and the creditors account. So we will debit this account and credit that account. Now the problem is, I've posted now here 720 Rand as a debit against the account. Do you agree? So now suddenly there's lying an additional 720 Rand. But is that 720 Rand on the statement? No. You see, it was not a reconciling difference before I've posted it because it was not there and it was not there. But then I said, but it's a valid entry. I have to update my record with the 720 Rand. So it's not here now. And now the 720 causes a reconciling difference. So going to my reconciliation, what did that 720 Rand done to my ledger balance, my final ledger balance? It has reduced my ledger balance. There you can see it's a debit and it's always a credit. So it has reduced my balance. So if I want to eliminate the impact, what should I do now? I should increase my balance once more. So I'm going to add it to whatever my ledger balance was. So 720 Rand there. If I have started with my statement balance, what will that 720 Rand discount do to the outstanding balance as per the statement? Now, if Tiger Supplies is going to process that 720, it's going to reduce my outstanding balance. So therefore, I have to deduct it from my balance per statement. Minus 720, then I have addressed the issue. Right. Alunda, that's the owner, showed some of the damaged inventory that was received from Tiger Supplies to their owner. Luna reminded him of the returned inventory twice this month. Remember here when we have done the reconciliation, we have seen that there were twice during the month goods returned to Tiger Supplies, but not one of the two appear on the statement. So this owner is just reminding them, listen, we have returned stuff and you haven't done anything about that. No credit notes have been received from them as yet. Tiger Supplies will issue the necessary credit notes on the 31st of March. So although they haven't done it as yet, they agreed that they will issue these credit notes. So my accounts are correct. So the problem lies on the statement balance. So once they're going to process these two credit notes, what is it going to do to the statement balance? Guys, the statement balance will reduce by the value of those two credit notes. If I have reconciled from my ledger balance to the statement balance, what did those two credit notes done to my outstanding balance? It was a credit note, so it reduced my outstanding ledger balance. So if I started at my ledger balance and I want to make my ledger balance the same as the statement balance, I have to add back the value of those two credit notes again to my ledger balance in order to reflect the same balance as what the statement does. So I will add it back to the ledger balance, whatever the ledger balance was supposed to be. Upon investigation, it was realized that the correct amount for invoice 1463 was 7716. Now remember, we made a little question mark here. They have posted 7766, we have posted 7716. And they've told us now, after they have actually went and have a look, it was found that 7716, i.e. our records, was correct. So we're not going to pass an entry because we have passed the correct amount, but the difference between the two, which looks like 50 Rand, is going to be a reconciling difference. So if we have posted the same incorrect amount as the creditor, what would that 50 Rand have done to our ledger balance? It was an invoice value that was overstated by the creditor, so that means if we have done the same thing, our ledger balance would have been 50 Rand higher. If I started with a statement balance, and then I'll ask myself, but included in this statement was an invoice for 7766, and it should only have been 7716. Now, if I've posted 7716 there, what would have been my statement balance? And my statement balance would have been 50 Rand less than the amount that I've shown. So I will now subtract the 50 Rand from my statement balance if I've started with a statement balance. Good. That, I think, was the only differences that they have identified between the statement and the ledger. So if I go to my ledger account here and I balance it off, I will have now my updated creditors account balance, which is 2616, and I can drop it down there, 2616 balance as per ledger. Now I can add all this stuff there. There's nothing that I'm going to deduct. I'm going to add all those figures, and then you will see that my balance as per statement, when I cast it down, equals 16,232. If I take the 16,232 and I go to the actual statement balance as at the end of the month, that must now be the same. And I say, yebo gogo, this thing reconciles, so I'm a happy chappy. 16,232 and my balance there, 16,232. Alternatively, if I've started with the statement balance, the 16,232, and I'm going to do all these adjustment entries, I will end up with a balance according to the creditors account, calculated as 2616. Now I go to my creditors ledger account and I see what my balance is actually 2616, and I'm also a happy chappy. Good. Now we can carry on with the rest of the question. We have Tiger Supplies, that was the A part, and the B part of the question says, prepare the correct creditors control account in the general ledger of Pumba Traders for March 2013, and the C part is prepare the correct credit list according to the outstanding balances per creditor as at 31 March. So actually what they want you in B and C to do is to reconcile the creditors list balance with the creditors control balance. Now the first one, remember when they gave us these outstanding list balances, they said everything has been reconciled already except Tiger Suppliers. That is where we got the 3336. Now we have reconciled Tiger Suppliers, so we can put on our creditors list Tiger Suppliers with a final balance that we have updated, which equals to 2616. The target suppliers, 2616. Let's have a look what else have we done. Now, you can write down this creditors list as is. The only thing is you don't know the final figures, but you can write in brackets next to each and everyone's name the figures that you are going to start off with as their final balances. So we've listed all of them, and next to them, the first figure in that bracket will be the figure that they gave us on that list. So these are all the figures that they gave us on the list. Good, we've already done the creditors control account opening balance. Now, remember when we did target suppliers, there was one entry which was this discount of 720 Rand, which we have debited against target suppliers account. Remember that? There it was 720 Rand. But this entry will flow through to the creditors control account, because this discount obviously has not yet been posted in the creditors control account. So we must also post that discount against inventory in the creditors control account, 720 Rand on the debit side. That was the only adjustment entry that will have an impact on the control account of Tiger. An invoice of 6,600 Rand for goods bought on account from Dupi Traders was incorrectly entered into the creditors journal as 6060. So there's Dupi. Dupi start off with a balance of 2060. They say there was an invoice for 6,600 Rand, and it was entered into the creditors journal as 6060. Now guys, you must ask yourself, what is the impact of this on my accounts? The first thing is, if my creditors journal was incorrectly posted, so the invoice value in the creditors journal was wrong, then it would have meant that the wrong amount would have been posted to the individual account of Dupi Traders, and it would have meant that the total in my creditors column and my inventory column would also have been based on the wrong amount. So the total columns would also have been wrong. So that means that both the list, i.e. the individual creditors account, needs to be updated with this entry, as well as the creditors control account must be updated with this entry. We have only taken 6060 to the creditors individual account, and only this amount was included in the total opposed to 6,600. So we credited the creditors individual account with 540 Rand too little. And we have credited the creditors control account with 540 Rand too little. So we have to adjust that amount. So in the creditors control account, we will add then the additional 540 Rand. The counter leg will go against inventory. Guys, please, if you have decided in this question that don't tell you whether it's a perpetual or a periodic inventory system, I have assumed it is perpetual. So I've worked with inventory, and then this must be inventory. You cannot chop and change between purchases on the one side and then inventory on the other side. If you have decided to use purchases, it must be purchases right through. If you decided it to be inventory, it should be inventory right through. Okay, so I've set inventory, and then Dupi Traders, that was the original balance per list, that posting will increase that balance of him with 540 Rand. Dupi Traders, we still with old Dupi, buys goods from and sells goods to Pumba Traders. The debit balance of 1,500 Rand on their account in the debtors ledger is to be transferred to their account in the creditors ledger, as both parties decided not to continue with a business relationship in the future. No entry has been made in the books. Okay, now remember, when we've done the conceptual framework, we told each other that offsetting is not allowed in accounting. But here we have something, it's a final settlement of an outstanding balance. So we don't offset, let's say, a sales and a purchases transaction against each other. It is the same creditor slash debtor. The same, everything is the same. All that happens now is we are not going to continue with our relationship in the future. Now, instead of working out how much I owe him, and he is owing me, and I give him money, and he gives me money back, let's just put everything in one account and determine in that one account who owes who money, and then we can settle the outstanding balance. So, we have seen that there is 1,500 Rand in the debtors ledger. So, he's a debtor for us to the amount of 1,500 Rand. We owe him more than 1,500, guys. There you can see only the opening balance was more than 1,500 Rand, and here we've made an adjustment entry which increased the opening balance. So what are we going to do? We're going to credit the debtors account, we're going to debit the creditors account. So that will happen both in the debtors ledger as well as in the creditors ledger, so in the individual accounts, as well as in the debtors control account and the creditors control account. So that 1,500 Rand debit balance is going to be transferred here on the debit side of the creditors control account. So the debtors account would have been credited and the creditors account would have been debited. Also in his individual account, that will reduce his outstanding balance. It will be a debit against his account of 1,500 Rand. So that will give him then a final outstanding balance of 1,107. Pumba Traders decided to transfer the account of Marcus Traders to the debtors ledger. No entry has been made. Now, if you look at Marcus there, he has a balance in brackets of 732. That means it's a debit balance. So if I want to take out a debit balance, what do I have to do? I have to credit his individual account and credit the creditors control account, debit his individual account in the debtors ledger, as well as debit the debtors control account. So here, when we're going to post that entry, we are going to take out his debit balance. So he had a debit balance, so we're going to credit this account of 732, and we're going to debit the debtors control account and his individual account. And the same thing will apply to his individual creditors account. He has a debit balance. How are we going to get rid of the debit balance? We're going to credit his balance. So then this balance in the creditors ledger will become 0. An invoice for 4,200 Rand received from Luma stores was posted to the account of Lona Traders as in the creditors ledger. Now guys, in total, it has no impact on the list balance. The one will become more and the other one will become less. But it will definitely have an impact in the individual balances of Luma and Lona. And it is very important that their individual balances are correctly stated. So why? Because it means if it is not rectified, I'm going to pay them the wrong amount. So therefore I have to rectify. So who's got what? Luma was posted to Lona. So I'm going to debit Lona's account and credit Luma's account because it has no impact on in total. I'm not going to pass an entry in my creditors control account, and on my list, Luma's account is going to increase with 4,200 and Lona's account is going to decrease with 4,200, and those are the new balances as I have calculated them. Vehicle parts to the value of 2,220 Rand were returned to Parkview Motors. This was correctly recorded in the creditors allowances journal, but when posted to the account of Parkview Motors, it was posted as a credit purchase. Now, if it was correct in the creditors allowances journal, it means that my totals that was posted at the end of the month to my general ledger would have been correct. However, in the individual account of Parkview Motors, this amount that was returned, so it should have reduced the outstanding balance. it was posted as a purchase. So it increased the outstanding balance with 220 Rand. So if I decrease this balance now once with 2220, I'm just going to take this wrong entry out. So I will have to debit this account with 2 times 2220 in order to rectify the mistake. The first 220 will take out the credit purchase, the invoice that was posted. And the second 220 will actually record the credit note that was issued. So 2 times 220 will be subtracted from the original balance of Parkview Motors. Then this one is an important entry, and you must please pay a lot of attention to this entry. I'm going to bold it. Pumba Traders bought a new vehicle on credit from Parkview Motors, trading in their old vehicle at a profit of 7,500 Rand. The new vehicle costed 360,000 Rand. The cost price of the old vehicle was 127,500 Rand, and the accumulated depreciation at the date that it was sold was 115,200. This transaction had not been taken into account as the bookkeeper was unsure how to record it. Because I'm going to do all the journal entries here for you so that you can see what are the journal entries that we pass on a trade-in transaction. It's the same as the normal disposal of an asset entry. The only difference is it's a trading transaction. Okay. So when I sell any of my non-current assets, what are the steps that I follow? First step, determine whether I've used this vehicle in the current financial year before I've sold the vehicle. If I did, I have to provide depreciation for the current financial period on that vehicle. But they gave me the accumulated depreciation on the day it was sold, so I can assume that that depreciation has already been passed. So what am I going to do? The next step is take out the cost price of the asset out of my books. I'm going to take out the cost price of that vehicle out of my books. I'm going to credit the cost price account with an amount of 127,500. The second step is take out the accumulated depreciation of that asset out of my books. And the accumulated depreciation of that asset, they also gave me that, was 115,200. So what do I do with the difference? The difference I'm going to take to my asset disposal account. And what is that amount actually represents? That amount represents the carrying value of the asset at the date of sale. So 115,200 less 127,500 gives me a carrying value of 12,300 at the date of sale. Now they don't tell me how much I receive for the old asset directly. They only tell us that we made a profit of 7,500 Rand on the sale of this asset. Now it means then that what the carry value of the asset is 127,500 less 115,200, and that equals then 12,300. If I have made a profit on the sale, have I received more than the carrying value or less than the carrying value? Guys, I must have received more than the carrying value. So I have received the carrying value of 12,300 plus an amount that exceeds the carrying value with the amount of 7,500. So how much have I received for this vehicle that I've traded in? I have received 19,800 for this vehicle that I've traded in. So the proceeds that I have received on this old vehicle was 19,800. Good, now let's follow the following steps. The first step, take out the accumulated depreciation. The second step, take out the cost price of the vehicle. So what is my next entry that I want to pass? Record the proceeds on the sale of the asset. Have I received this money in cash? No. So, at the date when I took my old vehicle to the motor dealer, Parkview, he said, I will give you a certain amount as a trade-in value for your old vehicle, and we have now determined that the trade-in value was 19,800. So this now is actually a debtor in my books. Then we said, okay, where are we going to take the proceeds to? To the asset disposal account. Remember, this question says ignore that. That is what I'm doing. Ignore that. So I will credit the asset disposal account, 19,800. Then I have to record the profit or the loss on the disposal of the asset. Now I have a debit of 12,300 against the asset disposal account and a credit of 9,800 against the asset disposal account. So obviously, in order to balance this thing off, I need a debit in my asset disposal account of 7,500 Rand. That also is the profit on the disposal of the asset. Oh, goodness gracious me. So that would have been credit to the income account of 7,500. Good. So this was our final entry. Debit asset disposal 7,500. Credit then our profit on disposal 7,500. Now, what about the new vehicle? Well, now we have purchased a new vehicle. So we're going to debit vehicles at what? The cost price of the new vehicle was how much? 360,000 Rand. And who do we owe that money to? We owe that money to the creditor, Parkview. So can you see that obviously I'm not going to give him 360,000 Rand and then he's going to give me 19,800 Rand back, guys. What is going to happen? At the end of the day, I'm going to debit Parkview's account with a net outstanding balance of how much? Let's write it here. 360,000 less the amount that he owes us, 19,800. And that amount equals 340,200. That is the amount I'm going to pay. So that is the cash that's going to flow at the end of the day after we've settled all these outstanding amounts. This entry has not yet taken place because we haven't paid him as yet. But all the other entries that has an impact on Parkview's account must be recorded. So Parkview account here, there was debited with 19,800 and Parkview's account here was credited by 360,000. So it will increase with 360,000 and decrease with 19,800, which will leave a final balance of 349,140. The same thing will apply to the creditors control account because we haven't accounted for that transaction as yet in the general ledger. So on the debit side, we are going to post the amount that he owes us for the old asset, 19,800, and on the credit side, we're going to record the amount that we owe him, 360,000 Rand. Great, that was then the end of the story for all the reconciling differences, because then we start off with Tiger Supply. So let's see whether this thing now actually reconciles. We can now balance off our creditors control account, and we can now see that we have a final balance of 359,910. When we bring it down, 359,910. When we're going to calculate the final balance of Parkview's account and we add the creditors list together, we will see that the total on the creditors list is 359,910. Guys, so it reconciles, and I'm a very happy chappy that my creditors list, so my individual creditors ledger account balances reconciles back to my general ledger creditors control account.